So, welcome everyone to the second edition of the Great Good Place News from GGP. I'm here with Kathleen, the owner of GGP, of course, and our special guest today, Nancy Davis Coe. And I'm Mike Kelleher.
Hey everyone.
Let me start with we're gonna first remind everybody about the special offer that is going on now from Libro FM. Is a great way to support GGP and other indie bookstores. There's a playlist at the address shown on the screen right now, and you can also find that in the link on Facebook, and we've put it out on Twitter and on our website as well. Any one of these books audiobooks that you purchase before midnight tomorrow, 100% of the proceeds will go to GGP or an independent bookstore of your choice. So an incredible, generous offer here at this time when bookstores really need a lot of support. One of the books there is The Thank You Project, and The Thank You Project is by Nancy Davis Coe. So I'm going to turn it over to Kathleen, and maybe you can introduce Nancy, and we'll go ahead and get started talking to Nancy.
Hi guys. I need to tell you that I have been waiting for this book for years. Nancy Davis Coe and I have been friends for many years, and when she told me what she was doing, I said, "Oh my God, this is awesome! People are going to love it." And for those of you who don't know, Nancy is the creator of the Midlife Mixtape blog, which is really fun. She's a freelance writer, and her first book came out in November called The Thank You Project. And so, Nance, how are you today?
Well, Kathleen, on the count of three, I want you to find me. Ready? 1, 2, 3. We each found tea that we thought we should wear. We both want to be Meghan Markle, so there's no Kate Middleton in this.
Both want Meghan Markle. She's our favorite role.
I am fine. Thank you for including me in this, and thanks for all you're doing. You know, I'm not just an author. I'm a customer of Great Good Place for Books. So it's been very helpful to know that we can call you and say, "Can you please track down the 7-year-old book that one of us really wants to read?" So last night I started Hilary Mantel's the third Thomas Cromwell book that you sent over to me. Thank you for still fulfilling book orders. Appreciate that.
Oh, no problem, babe. So what inspired you to write this book?
Well, and here's my visual. Okay. Yeah, wasn't it? So the book about, so what happened was in 2016, I was going to turn 50, and I decided that I wanted to do something mark that year because everything was going so great. So I thought I'm going to write a thank you letter every week of my 50th birthday year to somebody who has helped or shaped or inspired me. And I really started it off thinking this was just kind of a way to acknowledge all this, all these nice people in my life. And what happened was it turned out to be a really year. I lost my dad really suddenly. Our older daughter left for college cross country, which, by the way, where all her belongings are right now. And, that was great to see her go to college, but it was hard because it was just 3 weeks after dad died. And it was the 2016 presidential, which was so contentious that I think everybody was feeling anxious, worried, and scared, very how we're feeling now, but a little different. And I found that sitting down every week to write a thank you letter was this really calming practice. And I would finish the letter and I would feel so more peaceful and connected and more brilliant, because part of what went into these letters, if I was thinking about how people helped me, it meant that I had to think about times in my life where I had trouble, where I had faced problems, and someone had come to my rescue, or someone had given me a good piece of advice, or someone had just said, you're not alone as you go through this. And so over the of what ended up being a year and a half. I couldn't finish it in a year because after my dad died, I was kind of knocked off my game for quite a while. But when I'd finished, I had all this proof of people, and eventually I started writing thank you letters to places I lived and pastimes I enjoyed. But I had this kind of written proof that I was part of a larger team of people, that I had a support network. And so that was my goal in writing the book, was making it easy for people to do that for themselves, kind of have tools to figure out who they might want to write to, what might go in a letter like that. And also just to kind of take I tried to be funny. It's meant to be entertaining, not about like, you have to write your thank you letters. I tried to take a different tone.
Well, another thing that I noticed that I loved, being a music dork like you are, is
Who are you calling dork? Who are you calling dork, Kel? Wait, I'm going to open up because I know what you're going to say. So let me find the page.
Well, every section has its own playlist, and I have to admit, when I was reading it a couple days later, because remember I read it one night until 4 a.m. So thank you very much for causing my lack of sleep. But I went back and I listened to some of them, and they were just spot on. And I mean, they were the music of art. Yeah, right there, babe. That's it.
Well, yeah, good. I'm glad you like this. The book designer, Amanda Richardson. First of all, since I had nothing to do with the book design, I have to say I think this is the pretty thing, because like, look at this is the thing I love the most, the end paper with florals on it. I think that's so cheerful. Wow. But Amanda Richardson, did the cassette tapes, and you and I Gen X, so I was really invested in making sure the cassette was drawn properly, and it was. But I had fun putting together those playlists. I have the Midlife Mixtape blog and the Midlife Mixtape podcast, so I obviously cling to mixtapes as kind of an artifact for the way I view the world, a lens through which I view the world. And so it made sense to me when I was thinking about and writing about who are the kinds of people in your life you might write to. A lot of those people, as I thought about them, reminded me of different songs. So there's a section on writing to your friends, your childhood friends, your, hang in there friends, I call them, the ones who, it's sometimes you have known somebody for so many years that your past is incomplete without their recollection of it. And, friends you've made at work, or all the different places you may come in contact with people. And I can, because I think in lyrics a lot, I can think of songs relating to virtually anybody to whom I wrote a letter, with one exception. And that was, I really enjoyed writing a letter to a teacher. I had one teacher, and I think a lot of people would, when they think about who's helped, shaped, or inspired you, a lot of people would have a teacher or three, on that list. And there are almost no songs about teachers that are not dirty. And, every song I go look, I'm like, no, that's inappropriate. I'm not sending that to my AP English teacher. So there's a market, songwriters. Write a song about a teacher that is not all full of horniness. That would be great.
I agree. I mean, I was thinking about Hot for Teacher.
Hot for Teacher, teacher, literally nothing. My brother gave me one that, like, after the fact. This was I wrote a little essay for, do you ever read the Lighthearted Boy blog? It's a really great blog where it's literary and musical. So he has different authors come in and share a playlist for either the character book or, what they were listening to as they wrote. And he gets some really great authors to share that music. I was so thrilled when he said, yes, I'll run, I'll take one from you. So I did a playlist for him of all the things that I wished I had put onto my cassette, onto my playlist, but couldn't because either they came out too late or I didn't think about it in time, because there's this, anybody who is a music person who likes to make playlists, you're always under pressure, like, what have I missed? So it's like a playlist full of regret that I wrote for Large Hearted Boy.
Oh, that's so awesome. I was thinking about my first mixtape, and I remember I did it off of the radio, KFRC, and I would when a song I really liked, I'd run and get the tape recorder, and I'd
always
press
with your fingers just hovering right over record.
Because you want to fade it out right, because you want to make sure it sounds okay. And I was thinking about it. I had those.
And you're always like, shut up, DJ. I need the whole song. Stop talking.
Well, I mean, KFRC was really big in the 70s. It was before KFOG. And it was, Dr. Don Rose. We used to all listen to him in the Bay Area. And I remember, and he was super obnoxious. I mean, he was super, super obnoxious. But one of the things that I really, going back to your book, that I really liked about it is I felt you in every page. And I felt that your heart was in every page. So how did you do that?
Well, first of all, I have to say that might be a feature or an advantage depending about how you feel about me personally. I don't know who out there doesn't like me. So sorry, don't pick up my book if that's the case. But I just, I have to say the process of this book was, I look back now and I can't believe I did it as quickly as I was given about a 10 deadline to write the entire book. And it's not a very long book. You can read it in one sitting. But the thing was that, and I was confident I could do it because I had written the letters. I knew what I wanted to say. I knew the kinds of people I'd written to. So, I pushed myself in the writing to think way beyond my own experience. And I wanted to make sure, and I asked early writers to read for this, make sure it's inclusive, make sure that, I picked people who have had different life experiences for me. And I said, make sure that I'm talking about the kind of people who you might think of, because we all go into any project, anything we do with our own mindset and our own experience. And I wanted to make sure that people who haven't grown up in the same environment as I have also feel invited to reflect as they read the book. So that part was not challenging. It was just a goal that I had. And then the second piece that was new writing and was like kind of, where the work really was for this book was looking at the science, because I wanted to understand why, from a physiological, emotional, what are the quantifiable reasons why I felt better writing thank you letters. And luckily there's tons of emerging research on the science of gratitude and happiness, and the Greater Good Science Center down the road at UC Berkeley was super helpful. And there's other centers where I was able to get some research, because I wanted to make sure that somebody who read the book didn't say, well, that's fine, it worked for you, but it's not going to work for me. And there's so much science that says that deliberate expression of gratitude really does have the same impact that I felt happier, I felt more resilient, I felt calmer. And so that was fun for me. I'm kind of a research nerd. I loved reading all the studies and trying to figure out how that played out in the way that I experienced the project. And also I interviewed other people who had done similar projects, because again, I wanted to make sure it wasn't just my own experience. So I have a few other people in there who have done similar initiatives of writing thank you letters, and was able to find out in talking with them that, yeah, it worked for them too. They felt the same way. That all this science, it's, I'm not special. It was not something that I am the only one who experienced. So I guess to come back to your question, I felt confident that I knew how I wanted to tell people just what I had done. And I just wanted to put enough framework around it so that both they and I would realize that it's replicable and worth doing.
So I'm going to totally go off subject here. But what people don't realize is you are also a guest DJ at a San Francisco dance club, usually once a month.
Not always that often, but yeah, I do. I am a guest DJ for an 80s alternative night at the Cat Club in San Francisco. So, and I'm thinking so hard about those guys, and it's not, of course, I feel happy that I'm able to help through this Libro initiative to help independent bookstores, but I am keenly aware of all the small businesses that are suffering right now. And I'm really worried about the Cat Club and all these other great venues that I go to for shows and dancing. So I'll just mention that, they're selling merch. I hope that someday soon I'll be back up in the DJ booth with Damon, because I'm not actually I'm not a good DJ. I'm a good selector. I'm good at putting the playlist together for my set, but every single time I get up there, I'm like, okay, what do I do again? Show me what button to push. And then by the third song, I'm okay. But my friend Damon Boyle, who the 80s DJ there on the nights I go, he's so sweet to me. It's like, no, come on, we'll do it. Let me run you for the umpteenth time, Nancy.
So, going back to what you're doing for independent bookstores, what inspired you to contact I know you contact your publisher and everybody else to make this happen.
No,
and I can't.
The publisher contacted me. So Big Press. It was their initiative. They came to me and said, "Would you be willing to have the Thank You Project listed as part of this group of titles that will donate 100% of their proceeds?" So Running Press gets all the accolades here, and my agent, who's also got some skin in the game, came right back. Let's do this. So we approved it in like an hour after we got the invitation to participate, and I can't think of I'm so happy that I'm able to do that.
So going back to your own local booksellers, what drew you to start shopping at GGP? Because you've been a regular since in the 15 years I've owned it.
First,
and
is your tiara giving you a headache? Because mine is giving me. Apparently heavy is the head that wears the crown. I can't. No, taking it off. All right.
Okay. I'll give up. But I have the magic
wand. You have a magic
dance.
wand. Just wave it at the dents that I now have in the sides of my head. It's funny because you're right. I didn't start. I've been in Oakland 22 years, and I did not start shopping there until you bought it. And I don't know why I never had gone in. I think maybe because my kids were little. I had my hands full. I was working and had 2 little kids, and somehow that fateful day I wandered in. But I just love the way that Great Good Place is kind of the meeting spot for people. That's one, and it's almost like an Old West general store. You say, oh, I have a book for you. Kathleen's got it for you on hold at the thing. I'll meet you for, after you finish your shopping, meet up at the bookstore. Like everybody knows it as a central location to meet up. And, my girls have been shopping there forever. And anybody in this family wants a book. They always say, well, call Kathleen and see if she has it. So, one of the things I love is because that my taste runs to music memoir, and I read a lot of music themed books. And there have been times where I walk in and you're like, oh, Nancy, I just read an advanced copy of something. You're going to love Daisy Jones and the Six. You were telling me about that book for a freaking year before it. And when it finally came out, I'm like, oh my God, finally I can read it.
Oh my God. I love that. But see, my fetish is music books too. I love a good, I'm more to the fiction side.
Right.
More. I mean, I actually have a book.
Oh, see, you're going to be again. You're going to, I'm not going to read.
This is one that I think you're going to love. It's about the 90s music scene in the city.
When's it coming out?
It comes out in 2 weeks.
Oh, wait, perfect. Hold it up because I can't see it.
Hold it up a little higher, Kathleen.
Somebody pre-order that at the bookstore.
It's called Perfect Tunes.
Emily Gould. Okay.
Kathleen.
On my list.
Kathleen, go ahead and say the name again and hold the book up higher. So it was just so we can see it.
It's called Perfect Tunes by Emily Gould.
Great.
Okay.
Can you guys see that?
We can
put it
see
on the list.
Thanks.
And actually, one other story that I love from my memories of Great Good Place is, I didn't start out as a writer. I've had a business career for the first 17 years of my life, or of my work life. And it wasn't until I was in my 40s that I started writing seriously. And one of my favorite authors is Sandra Bland, who does historical fiction. I love reading historical fiction. And she wrote a 3-part series about Joseph Bonaparte called the Josephine Trilogy. That is one of my ever. It's one of the few books on that out. It needs to live in my house. That cannot go. And she came to the bookstore, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to meet Sandra Gallant. or I didn't even think I'd meet her. I just thought I would, get to hear her read. And first of all, she shows up at the time she was writing Tudor fiction, and she was in a full-on like homemade Tudor replica piece. She does that for every book she writes. She first makes the costume of the person whose viewpoint she's writing from. That's how she gets into the costume. So it was exquisite. There she is, all dressed up like a Tudor. Tudor? How do we say that word? I don't know. It's on live. Fix it in post-production. And when I went afterward, and I'd been writing at this point for about a year, and I had the cocksure optimism of an untested green writer. And afterward, I took the book to her to have her sign it, whatever book, I can't remember what title was new at the time. And I said, I too am a writer of historical fiction. And she just leaned over and embraced me. And she said, you are going to get rejected so many times. And I was like, what is she talking about? That's crazy. And let me tell you, 6 years later, when that book had been rejected like infinity times, I'm like, oh, Sandra, you were just trying to you were trying to push in the blow. So, that book went back to the drawer, but it cracked me up because she was so real to me at a time that I didn't know that that's what I needed to hear. So, and you always get great. I love going to readings at the bookstore. Taylor Jenkins Reid's one about Daisy Jones and the Six was a fantastic event. Peggy Orenstein talking about, which book was it? It wasn't Boys and Sex. The last time she was there was for her book before that, which I'm on. But
book of essays.
Huh?
The book of essays?
Yes, that's the one. That's the one about all her feminist essays collected, which were great. So you have an amazing roster of men.
Well, as I tell everybody, I've been doing this a really long time, but it's, I'm lucky. I get to do what I love every day. I mean, how many people can honestly say that they love what they do every day? I mean, I don't love it when I have to pay the bills and stuff like that, but I love telling people what to read. Being the youngest child, as you know, we are so used to being bossed around that it's really nice to boss people around our own space.
Yeah, I hear.
Well, Nance, I guess we'll let you get back to your day, and thank you so much for coming out to play.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you you've been a huge supporter of this book from day one, and you were at my launch party selling the books, and I would not be here without the ongoing encouragement that you've given me as a writer. And I call you my book pusher. Like you're definitely my dealer when it comes to reading, and be a good writer if they're not a good reader. So thank you for all your help in that regard as well.
Oh, and Nancy, thank you so much for doing what you're doing for the independent world right now, the independent book world. I can't tell you how much we appreciate you. And for those of you who have not read this book, you can download it. You can buy it online. It's one of the best books that I've read in the last year.
Let me say, thank you. Thanks. Let me just say, audiobook was one of the most fun parts of this whole thing. So I'm the narrator for the audio version, and I did it at a studio in Oakland. The sound engineers were great. Skyline Studios, Skyline Studios. They're really awesome. And the best part was when I was finishing up on the last day for the recording, the sound engineer said, oh, there's a band setting up next door, but they're just playing acoustic. So they're not going to, luckily it didn't bleed over. And I said, who's the band? And he said, oh, it's this East Bay rapper, Lyrics Born, who is my favorite East Bay rapper. Check out Lyrics Born. So I'm like, oh my God, I love him. And he said, come on in and say hello. So I got to go in and tell Lyrics Born that I had literally been playing my red vinyl best of album the day before. He just rocks out. Great live show and great music. So that was really cool. It was really fun to meet him and the band and, just go through that whole process. But I also want to say there's lots of other titles available on this initiative too. I think there's 11 or 12 books in total, including Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkerson. And if that is a book you guys have not read about the Great Migration, download the audiobook. It's such an interesting and important part a national history, but East Bay history too. I mean, Oakland was shaped by that Great Migration. So if you haven't gotten around to that book, highly recommend it. Don't worry about mine. Get that one instead. And there's a bunch of other titles too, so check out the whole list. So that's my. And now I shall put on my tiara and go back to work.
Thank you
Well,
so much, Nancy.
It's awesome.
Thank you for the royal wave. I'll talk to you later. Bye. Thanks, Michael.
Bye.
Hey guys. Well, that was fun.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, so again, Nancy's book, The Thank You Project, is the audio book. If you purchase it before midnight tomorrow night, all of the proceeds will go to GGP or another independent bookstore that you can select on Libro. So thanks so much, Nancy. And now I think we're going to switch over to the Dutch House. Kathleen, why don't you talk a little bit just quickly about the Dutch House, and then I've got a little sample to play of them sitting in front of the house. But why don't you give us a little background?
Little background. Well, I mean, as I said when we had the discussion the other night with the book club, is I've always felt that the Dutch House was one of the lead characters. It's about the Conway family and their interactions within this massive house and all the lives that have gone on inside and all the pain and all the relationships. It's was so unexpectedly wonderful. I mean, I was not expecting to be as mesmerized by it as I was. And I need to tell you that part of it was because Tom Hanks was the reader, and I felt like he was coming into my house every day reading me a story. So if you haven't listened to the Dutch House, it's kind of my gateway drug into audiobooks, and now I might be addicted. I still love my print book. But, these are just really fun, especially being I'm in my house by myself with just Sadie the cat. And as you guys all know, I keep saying she's not a great conversationalist. So I feel like there's somebody here with me when I'm listening to an audiobook. And this one is probably one of the best books I've listened to in a really long time. This one and Daisy Jones and the Six are just amazing. So go ahead, play the clip.
Okay. Let me
You ready?
This a try. Yeah, I think so. All right.
I couldn't focus myself on May when everything around me was shimmering frost and moonlight. Maybe I was still half asleep. Do you ever come over here in the morning early like this? Maeve shook her head. I don't think she was even looking at the house, how beautiful it was rising out of the darkness. For the most part, I had stopped seeing it a long time ago, but every now and then something would happen, something like this, and my eyes would open again, and I would see it there, enormous, preposterous, spectacular. A brigade of nutcrackers would come pouring out of the dark hedges at any minute and be met by a battalion of mice. The lawn was sugared with ice. The stage at Lincoln Center hadn't been made to look like the Dutch House. It was that the Dutch House was the setting for a ridiculous fairy tale ballet. Was it possible our father had turned into the driveway that first time and been struck by the revelation that this was where he wanted to raise his family? Was that what it meant to be a poor man, newly rich?
Okay, I think we're back now.
That's great. I love that selection.
Yeah, isn't that beautiful?
It gives the whole tone of the novel. If you're a fan of, I mean, I love the first person narrator, and I think that Danny Conway is definitely one of the true, one of the true truth tellers in fiction.
That's the character name that Tom Hanks is playing, the Danny Conway.
Yeah, he's the narrator of the book.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things we had one of our meetings that our virtual book chats on Zoom. One of the earlier ones was doing the Dutch House, and we had a nice gathering of I think almost 20 people or so talking about it. One of the things you brought up during that discussion, as I remember, is that like the house becomes a character because it's such an important piece of the story. This super ornate house that Danny and his sister grow up in and then later are forced out of.
Well, I mean, I think that it's also a full circle because the house starts the story and then the house ends the story. And I don't want to give away too much, but it's truly a full circle moment at the end.
Yeah, it's very cool. So the Dutch House, we highly recommend it on Libro FM if you want the audiobook, or if you want it in paper as well. We've got it, and you can order it direct from the warehouse for shipping here. We mentioned the virtual book chats. Tomorrow night is our next one. We're going to be discussing Circe by Madeline Miller. This is a retelling of the myth of Circe, the witch who appears in Homer's Odyssey, and just a really cool book. We're going to play some of the samples from the audiobook. How are you doing getting through Circe there? I guess this is the second time, Kathleen, or the first?
Left.
How much did you say left?
So 4 hours.
Okay. Yeah, so great book. And then this coming Wednesday night, we're going to be discussing Ocean Vuong's novel On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. That's the story of an immigrant from Vietnam and his mother and grandmother, and growing up in the United States and coming out. It's really a beautiful story. He's a poet, and you can tell it in his writing. And then the following Wednesday, we're going to be discussing the Booker Prize winner, Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo. Please go ahead and get the audiobooks if you want to get these instantly, or they're available on Kobo e-reader as well, or we can ship you a paper copy from the warehouse. So Kathleen, anything else you want to say before we end our second great Good Place News?
I just want to say thank you to everybody, and we appreciate your continued support, and we'll see you on the other side of this.
All right, bye. See you later.